Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Matt Robinson, the Gregarious Hermit. So, continuing with my overview of my new book, Understanding Happiness, the Pocket Companion Workbook. Today, I want to talk about mindfulness. And that's a term that we hear a lot these days, people being mindful and trying to get out of their head and back into their body. I also think it's a little bit misunderstood. If I show you this, I'll hold that to the camera, hopefully it can focus on it. But if I show you this item, you all know immediately what it is. But did you notice what your mind actually did? It basically saw the object, identified it immediately as a tennis ball, and then it stopped looking. But that's basically what your mind does. It looks around the world for threats, things that are going to be dangerous. So once it's identified something that it's seen before and it knows that it's safe from its past experience, you already have an entry in the list showing you that tennis balls are inherently safe. It'll identify the tennis ball, say, oh, I've seen one of those before. It's not a threat. Okay, move on and go back to looking around the rest of the world. As you look around a room, your eyes don't move slowly across the scene. Your eyes kind of jump from object to object until you identify it and then realize that it's safe, and then you move on. And that's just an inherent part of our human makeup. But with mindfulness, what we try to do is override that natural tendency to look at things without seeing, and basically bring our focus back to our body rather than focusing on the conversations in our head. So with the tennis ball, what you can do, and this is the best way to learn mindfulness, is to not go out into the world and try to apply it to everything that you do. Don't say, I'm going to go shopping and I'm going to be mindful while I go and do my grocery shopping, or I'm going to cook my dinner mindfully, because there are literally too many distractions that will grab your focus and you'll very quickly forget what it was you were supposed to be doing. So, to learn the techniques of mindfulness, you need to kind of basically do it very deliberately. I always tell people, and the book explains this, that you should pick something up that you can hold in your hand, something small enough that you can basically hold it fairly close. And if you look at the tennis ball, every single fiber on that ball is completely different. And as you slowly turn it around, you'll see that every single part of it, it's a different color. It's picking up light from the walls. It's picking up highlights from reflections from my hand, although they probably won't show up on camera because the lights are coming pretty much from the front. But when I look at it from where I am, I can see a very dark shadow on the back. And so it's not this super bright fluorescent green that you see on the front. The backside is kind of a dark, muted color. And then underneath the ball, which you guys won't be able to see, but there's a reflection. The light is hitting my hand and bouncing back up under the ball. So it has a slight pink tinge underneath that edge. And as you start to look at things like that, you'll notice that things become fascinating. But just like meditation, you need to start with a fairly calm environment so that you feel safe, your mind isn't overloaded and stressed, and it isn't constantly looking around for different things that might be a threat. Basically, by calming down, slowing down your breathing a little bit, that you're telling your mind that you feel safe and you feel comfortable enough to actually slow down and take the time to look at something. And by deliberately slowing down like that, your awareness becomes so much more focused. Now, if something sneaks up on you behind you while you're staring at the ball, don't worry, your mind is still going to alert you to the threat and the presence of something. But for the time that you're looking at this ball, you just want to really slow down and notice every aspect of it. I mean, there's, as well as all of the visual um, sensations looking at the ball, there's also, textural as well. You can feel the surface. It's not smooth. It has wonderful texture, and every single part of the ball is going to feel slightly different. Now, presumably, it has a smell too, which again, you can I probably wouldn't advise sniffing a tennis ball because it's mostly rubber, but it has a smell to it. That's another sense that you can like tune into and really delve into that. I presume it has taste, but I'm not going to lick the tennis ball because I have no idea where this thing's been. It's not a brand new one. But it also has sound too. So even something really simple like a tennis ball has so many aspects to it that you can really focus on. All of the physical senses that you have, you can feel the weight of it um, and just roll it around in your hand. But when you feel your mind drifting again and you start to get a conversation in your head, just go back to looking at the tiny details. And when you think you've seen every aspect of the ball, kind of dive in even closer. Really, really look at it and really study it. And you want to do that each day, just for a few minutes at a time. Again, you're building the stamina, essentially. You're building the skill of focusing. And that's the problem that a lot of people make is that they say, okay, I'm going to be mindful while I go for a walk around the neighborhood. But, everything you see is kind of a distraction. So you don't actually learn the skills and the techniques. You really want to do this almost like soccer practice where you get good at kicking a ball by kicking a ball and being very specific about kicking a ball to a certain place. And, that's how you build the skill. And it's the same with mindfulness too. Starting small, something really that you can hold in your hand, then you'll develop that skill. And then over time, you'll be able to focus for longer periods. And eventually, you'll be able to take that out into the world. But you'll notice straight away, though, that once you're outside with too many distractions, that it's a lot more difficult to hold that focus. But a lot of people don't realize the enormous power of mindfulness. It's not just a case of like, okay, I'm going to become aware of everything that I'm doing by really focusing on the things that you're doing, every tiny sensation coming into your body, you actually silence the mind. You don't get those runaway conversations and the stories running through your head about who's to blame, whose fault it is. Um, judging the world. Because when you're actually studying something in minute detail, you're not judging. Now you're just observing. And that essentially calms the mind down. You're taking the time to actually focus on something. And so your mind again feels safe and realizes that, okay, that's what we're supposed to be doing right now. And so, mindfulness is incredibly powerful if you do it properly. You will notice as soon as you pick up a tennis ball and start to study it, you'll notice straight away that your mind goes silent. Now, it may not stay silent for long, but if you keep practicing that and keep doing it every day, just for a few minutes at a time, each time you jump in the car, like as you hold the steering wheel before you start to drive, just become aware of the sensations of the steering wheel. Each time you pick up your phone to make a phone call or scroll through your news feed, just take the time to become aware of those sensations that holding the phone gives you. And as you get better, you'll be able to apply that focus to every aspect of your day to day life. Meeting with people, you'll focus on what they're saying so much and so intently, you won't be thinking of a response in your head. You'll literally be listening to exactly what they're saying. And that kind of gives you much more empathy as well. You'll understand where they're coming from and understand all of their reasoning rather than as soon as you hear the first word that you have a different opinion on, formulating your response to them, you'll actually listen and you'll understand what they're saying more, and you'll be able to empathize and you'll have much more compassion. So today the world seems so divided, and it is literally that process that we look but don't see. And so we're not actually listening to the other people when they're trying to explain their side of the argument. We literally we're spending our time focused on our own conversation in our head, which is basically our argument as to why they're wrong. But if you stop doing that, and if you practice mindfulness when you're talking to people, um, your relationships with people will take on a whole new dimension. Even people that you may not get along with, you'll still be able to have wonderful conversations with them and enjoy every moment of that conversation. And joy is one of those things that when you actually stop your mind from talking, um, Joy is the natural thing that occurs. Our default state should be a happy state, but it's only our mind that tells us otherwise. And all of this judgment that we give, and again, I've talked about that the last few days, but all of the judgment that we give to the world basically just strengthens that process of judgment, and ultimately it comes back to self-judgment, which that's kind of a dark place to start going, but a lot of people find themselves in that place right now. And mindfulness really is a simple and effective way to get out of your mind and back into our physical being, where ideally we should be. So meditation, a lot of people struggle with that sometimes, and it's a very formal process. You have to get a quiet space and sit down deliberately for 10, 20 minutes, however long you're going to do that. Whereas mindfulness, you can practice it 24 hours a day, and it can be what you might perceive as being a horrible environment, noisy, bright, hot, whatever it is, but once you actually focus in on those little minute details, then the struggle that you experience and the conversation in your head telling you how horrible it is and how loud it is disappear, because you just become so focused on the physical experience that you're having. So there are an awful lot of benefits to mindfulness that I go into detail in the book, but it is, it's, you hear a lot about it these days, but it is a little bit misunderstood, I think. And so, practicing it properly, uh, learning the techniques that I teach in the book, um, really go a long way to creating a happy environment for your body, and happy and healthy, and that's kind of how we should all be living. So, all right, I know I'm rambling again a little bit today. I hopefully I'm getting a little bit better at these unscripted talks, but anyway, you guys tell me what you think. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.